Hey there, welcome to Rancho Funk. This is El Chapo, the Rancho Funk picking truck. In a moment, a 19-year siesta will officially be coming to a close, but before it does, a story. Once upon a time, there was a vintage Chevy truck, a truck that got lost in life's shuffle. I came across the listing for it in 2022. I was intrigued. A 1966 half-ton C10 fleet-side pickup in original condition, 2 owners, a runner, or so the ad said. I really didn't need another project, but I figured it wouldn't hurt to make a simple phone call. On the other end of the line was a young man who'd inherited his father's pride and joy, a beloved truck he had ridden in many times throughout his childhood. The grandson dreamt of someday returning it to the road, but like too many somedays, it never happened. The truck was about 10 miles from my house, so I went to look at it. I liked what I saw, but wasn't kidding myself. The truck had been parked for 17 years. It was no runner. It needed serious TLC. It was overpriced, but had a lot of potential. I'd been dreaming about building a picking truck to use for collecting treasures in or around our Central Texas home. To that end, the C10 had something going for it. A weathered two-tone gold and white paint job, a patina. Turquoise paint was pushing through in places. Thanks to Mother Nature and time served, the paint combined touches of turquoise and gold with bumps, scrapes, and scratches, but no actual dents. It was totally stock and hadn't been messed with, but again, it needed almost everything. It had a clean Texas title and Mexico plates. Weird. Had it been a mule? After inspecting it top to bottom, I made a lower than asking price offer with a 2-week expiration, wished the seller luck, and resigned myself that it would eventually fall into someone else's hands. 2 weeks later, it fell into mine. I had it flatbedded 10 miles to my driveway where it sits before you today. A fully renovated beater just over 2 years in the making. Being a short bed, I named it after a renowned Mexican drug lord, El Chapo, which translates to shorty in Spanish. The nickname stuck like snot on a suede mariachi jacket. First order of business, get El Chapo fired up. Using a portable gas can with fresh fuel and spark plugs and a new GM HEI ignition installed, the 250 6-cylinder miraculously turned over and purred like a kitten. Wow. It was at that exact moment that I decided to leave the 6-cylinder's internals alone and renovate the rest of the old beater. I used high-quality components and proven parts. Given the ultimate goal of using it as a picking truck, it now has a smattering of vintage touches in preparation for its next chapter in life. I'll skip all the mechanical mods and cover the aesthetic stuff today. The steely wheels were inherited from my 65 Suburban. I had the media blasted and professionally repainted in argent metallic. I spruced them up with spider caps and bullet lug nuts for a 60s vintage vibe. I found a vintage Navajo woven rug at a Goodwill for $30. It became the basis for El Chapo's custom interior. A rusty old Royal Crown soda sign found its way into the bed, along with a funky old toolbox mounted side saddle off the diamond plate bed floor. A series of D-rings were installed for securing precious cargo. There's even a vintage Squirk soda bottle under the hood, replacing the factory-equipped fluid reservoir. Moving to the interior, the cab was totally gutted, and minor rust repairs were made using fiberglass mesh and POR 15 rust prohibitor. The floors and the firewall were also coated in POR 15. Good shit. Extensive Dynamat vibration and soundproofing material was used in the interior, and stock-style rubber matting replaced the carpeting. The factory instrument cluster gave way to a Classic Instruments original gauge cluster with all new gauges and sending units. The stock radio was replaced with a stealthy 300-watt system with 4 speakers. A vintage Superior 500 steering wheel tops an I Did It tilt column, which I also painted to match the rest of the interior. An underdash vintage air Heritage AC and heating system was installed, and the stock bench seat was replaced with an early 90s GM 6040 bench before the custom upholstery work was done. The seat was mounted as far back as possible thanks to a relocated gas tank, which is no longer in the cab behind the seat. It's a reproduction 69 Camaro tank with the rear filled behind a flip-down rear license plate. That may be my favorite mod, because being 6'5", I needed legroom. The truck has longer legs too, as it is now equipped with a T5 5-speed manual overdrive transmission, a low-car double-bend shifter, and a Hirsch short-throw shifter, along with a custom vintage shift knob that matches the turquoise and white in the interior. 75 all day long is no problem. As far as ride height, I static dropped El Chapo to be low but entirely drivable as it sits. I completely renovated the engine bay as well as to be clean, but not ridiculously so. Everything else was aesthetically pretty much as I found it, other than the hand-painted type by Ken Manthei, who was referred to me by my pal Todd Saunders of Roadhouse Relics. The actual words were my department, being a writer by trade. I lightly buffed the original glass to remove light scratches and had ceramic window tint installed on the back and side glass to cut down on UV rays and reduce heat in the cab. Speaking of the cab, I took the top half of the exterior cab down to bare metal, removing light surface rust and repainting it using turquoise and white enamel, then scuffed it with Scotch-Brite pads to mirror the truck's existing patina. It was a fair amount of work, and the truck never left Rancho Funk until it was time for exhaust and final tweaks by Gus's Garage in Austin, where the emergency brake system was rebuilt, the AC was charged, the HEI ignition and timing were dialed in, and Peachy electronically programmed the speedo and tach and intended to do a handful of other minor issues prior to its maiden voyage to get its state inspection certificate. It was money well spent because frankly I was pretty exhausted after 2 years of messing with it. I'll skip the mechanical details for today. We'll cover that another time. With that, this is the moment many of my friends and followers have been waiting for. I believe this old truck has a few more adventures left in it. Welcome home, El Chapo. Welcome home. Thanks for listening.